Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the world. My name is Zach Jones, although a lot of you probably already know who I am. But welcome back to my channel, but if you're new to my channel, then welcome. Now, as I've mentioned previously, I've been reshooting a lot of my old PowerPoint presentations, this being one of them because I made a few mistakes last time and I've decided to correct them. It is about 15 predators of South America, and by that I mean modern day predators, not animals that are long extinct. I'm going to start with one of the largest carnivores in the Americas and the largest cat in the Americas, the jaguar. And no, I do not mean the carp jaguar, I mean the big cat. Now, jaguar may look a little bit like a leopard, but they are in a different group of the cat family. I mean, they're bigger and bulkier than a leopard, but also they have darker yellow coat and larger spots. Of course, jaguars are found throughout South and Central America and parts of Mexico and the southeast and the south of the USA. And they are, pound for pound, one of the most powerful world predators in the world. And of course, just like tigers and fishing cats, jaguars are big cats that are comfortable in the water, because where they live in the jungle and out on the savannah, it tends to be very, very hot, and water is, like with tigers, it's a good way for them to keep cool during the heat of the day, but also it's where they can hunt. Jaguar hunts a wide range of prey. They hunt mainly tapir, which are the largest forest animals in South America. They hunt peccary pigs, capybara, monkeys, fish, and in the water they'll even hunt anacondas, crocodiles, caimans, pretty much anything they can find. And how they kill their prey is actually quite a disturbing way, and that's mainly down to that jaguar have the most powerful bites of any big cat. In fact, when you actually look at the skull of a jaguar, you'll see it's very thick, it's very bony, and of course it has huge canine teeth that are probably a little bit longer than my thumb, and those teeth are driven by force right through the back of the skull and into the brain of its prey. And if you think that's incredible, well, a lot of what it feeds on are peccaries, which are wild pigs that live around the Americas, and they're one of a jaguar's favourite foods. And where their brain is very, very thick bone. So imagine the force that would be needed to bite through that skull and into the brain. But if you think that's frightening, think how much less force it would need to bite into a human skull. And then that just makes it even more terrifying. And jaguars, like all members of the cat family, do most of their hunting at night because they have a reflective layer of cells at the back of their eyes called the platinum lucea, which enhances their night vision, so they can see 6 times better than humans, especially at night, and that gives them an edge over their prey. But, unfortunately, like all members of the cat family, jaguars are now classed as endangered. And there are many reasons for that. I mean, the first one is habitat loss, because a lot of their home in like the rainforest and a lot of grassland are being cut and burnt down to make way for plantations and farmland. But also, they're called the masters of the shadows, which means they're experts at not being seen. But also, because probably the worst thing for me that why jaguars are so rare is human-wildlife conflict. And it's all down to the fact that jaguars that quite often live out near cattle ranches, because a lot of their natural prey is killed by ranchers, jaguars then end up killing cattle, and that of course angers the ranchers, who take out their guns and just go out and shoot them. And of course that's putting jaguars into conflict with people. And I mean, if humans end up, if ranchers just kill a jaguar, another will take its place, and it might end up not just attacking their livestock, but it might end up attacking them as well. But there are people working to stop this conflict, and one of the things they are working to do to stop this conflict is by putting bells on the cattle, so the jaguars will just keep their distance and find something else. But also, wildlife organisations like WWF are working to preserve the habitat they live in, and slowly jaguars are now starting to make a recovery, especially in the Pantanal in Brazil, which is the largest wetland on Earth, and that is said to be the best place in the world to see jaguar, although you're not always guaranteed to see one. But even so, this icon of the Americas and the Master of the Shadows who keeps eluding people, but also another way that we can protect them is with building breeding populations in captivity, and that can be a way to protect them and preserve them for the future. This is their range. I mean, the light green areas are their historic range, but the darker green areas are their current range. As you can see, they live throughout South and Central America, right up into Mexico and the southeast and the south of the USA. They are slowly making a recovery and starting to spread back to some of their historic range. So fingers crossed we will be able to see them in their natural habitat again. Now, the next animal I'm going to show you is the largest eagle and probably my favourite eagle. It is the Harpy Eagle. Now, the Harpy Eagle is the largest and most powerful eagle on the planet. And when I say the largest, I mean a fully grown female can have a wingspan of just over 2 meters, so as long as the front door of your house. They have talons that are longer and sharper than the claws of a grizzly bear, and in fact the heaviest Harpy Eagle ever weighed was about the same weight as a sack of potatoes, so they are very, very big birds. And that's all down to mainly what they feed on, because their favourite food are monkeys and sloths, but they will also take porcupines, small mammals, reptiles, pretty much anything. In fact, they're known as flying wolves because they can tackle prey bigger than themselves. Harpy eagles live in deep in the jungles of South and Central America, as far away from people as they can get, and they are rarely seen. In fact, I've actually known people who have lived their whole lives in the jungles of South and Central America and never caught a glimpse of one. And of course, if the Harpy Eagle looks familiar, that's probably because it was the inspiration for Hogwarts headmaster Albus Dumbledore's Phoenix, Fawkes, in Harry Potter. But also, Harpy eagles mate for life, and they have one chick every 2 years, and of course the parents always choose to nest in the highest tree that actually erupts out of the canopy, so they get a good view of their territory as well as somewhere they can be hidden and keep an eye out for monkeys and sloths. And of course, Harpy eagles are also very, very protective parents and very ferocious. In fact, I actually have a friend whose who, when he went to film Harpy Eagles, was actually attacked by an angry female who was defending her nest. And of course, when you go and film Harpy Eagles in the trees, in addition to the climbing kit, you also have to wear a stab vest and a riot helmet that's worn by riot police. And there's not many animals on the planet, let alone birds, that you have to wear riot kit to get close to, because a female Harpy Eagle can be quite a frightening force of nature, and with talons longer and sharper than the claws of a grizzly bear, they could do you some serious damage. And unfortunately, the Harpy Eagle is now one of the rarest and most threatened birds in the world, because one of the main reasons for that is we are taking away the forests that they rely on, cutting them down to make way for plantations, farms or towns, or just for the lumber industry, and that's leaving less and less space for the harpies to go. And also, quite often their chicks are taken from the wild to be sold through the exotic pet trade. But there is ways we can protect them, like with building breeding populations in captivity, working with local people to preserve the habitats they live in, and help increase their numbers, and get people working with local people to protect these birds, and hopefully we will have this populations increase in the next 20 years. Here is the range of the Harpy Eagle. And now, the next predator of South America I'm going to show you is the largest of its kind, and also my favourite of that group. It is the Green Anaconda. Now, the Green Anaconda is the largest snake in the world. And when I say the largest, I mean a fully grown female can be 9 meters long and weigh 550 pounds, which is as long as a bus and heavier than me. But also, as you can see from its skull, they have very thin, pointed teeth that all point backwards towards the throat. In fact, they have 1 row on the bottom jaw and 2 rows on the upper jaw. So essentially, once it's actually got a hold of prey, there is simply no way that it's letting go, and it can be funneled down into that throat. And while it's not a venomous snake, a bite from one would still be extremely painful. Of course, green anacondas don't kill their prey using venom. But what they do is, because they are in the constrictor group, so what they do is they will lie low, usually in water, to wait for prey to come along, and they can wait for hours, days, weeks, or even months on end. And once something gets too close, boom! The anaconda lunges forward, grabs a hold of its victim, and then wraps coils of the body around the animal. And then, as the animal breathes out, the snake just clenches a little bit more. And every time its prey breathes out, the anaconda just clenches more and more and more and more and more, until there's either no lung space left and the animal suffocates, or potentially bursting the internal organs. Then what it will do is it will swallow its prey in one go, because snakes are unable to chew their food. So rather grotesquely, what they do is they can unhinge the jaw and almost dislocate their entire jaw and just swell the head and walk it across its meal. And even for a snake lover like me, that is just a bit grim. And when I said about anacondas being